Welcome to episode 55 of Comics and Us. I'm TJ.
And I'm Lumpy.
And this is the review show that reviews comics chronologically, kind of, and really kind of in this instant.
We're not even in the same creators.
Nope. We fired Uncle Chris last week because his jokes are terrible.
They're pretty bad. I mean, I like some of them. I like them better than you do.
They're terrible. So he's not here because he's fired. And so me and Lumpy are going to cover something different for the next 2 episodes this week and next week. Or I don't know. Maybe it's not going to be weekly. Don't take the week things for how it is. I don't know how I'm releasing it yet.
We don't know how this is going to be released at all. So you might get this one and you might not even get the second one for a while. We don't know yet.
All right, you might get them back to back. Who knows? Anyway.
Yes.
So, since it's just me and Lumpy, and we've been covering DC a lot of the times, Lumpy really likes Marvel, so I let him choose the comic we were covering today, and it is X-23, the 2015 solo, not 2015, I keep thinking it's 2015.
I know, it's 2005.
It's her 2005 solo series. I guess I should ask any particular reason why you wanted to do this one?
It was just one of the ones that I liked. I thought it would be fairly easy to cover. It's not a whole lot, and it's a good origin story for her. So I thought it was interesting. Like I said, I kind of tend to, for this kind of stuff, when it's just me and you, I try to tend to get something that's going to be, a little bit easier to cover and not so, time-consuming for us. So
yeah, something. I lost my train of thought.
So X-23 is... do we want to explain who she is first? Or I guess once we go through the comic, we'll explain it.
I'm going to go through the credits right now, but I did want to bring up that I either read this comic before.
It's possible.
Or, because she's in the Logan movie.
Yes, she is.
And I think the origin is similar.
It's similar.
In the movie, because
yeah.
I remember distinctly that the end ended. We're only covering the first 3 comics in this one, but I do distinctly remember that ended from somewhere.
Yeah, and a lot of people after that movie came out probably even read this just to kind of learn a little bit more. So there's a chance you may have done this back when that movie came out, but it is very similar to what the movie is. It's not exact. No movie is ever exact to what the books or the comics are, but it's very similar.
Right. It felt very familiar to me, so...
You might have read it.
Yep, I don't know. Anyway, let's go into this. Issue 1 was released March 2005. Its editor-in-chief was Joe Quesada. That's how you say his name? Quesada?
Joe Quesada.
Quesada, whatever. Cover artist was Billy Tan, John Sibyl, and Brian Haberlin. Published by Dan Buckley. The actual story was written by Craig Kyle and Christopher Yost. Penciled by Billy Tan. Inked by John Sibyl. Colors by Brian Haberlin. Lettered by Chris Elapuluso. Edited by Axel Alonso and Corey Sedmeyer. Sedmeyer? I'd guess. I don't know.
No idea.
Anyway, that's that one. The cover just has X-23 half white on the cover. It's a big X-23 over a white background with Marvel Next on it. I don't know what Marvel Next is.
I actually was going to ask if you had seen anything, because and I'm a Marvel fan, I don't know what Marvel Next is, so I don't know if it's their next generation thing, because she's part of what is essentially the next generation of X-Men, so it's the upcoming, the next class of X-Men, so it's possible it has to do with that. Don't quote me on it because I don't know. I was curious about the same thing.
Well, it is 2005, so it could be something along with the promotion for back then.
Right.
Well, I just typed it in. It is a short-lived imprint that was launched by by Marvel Comics in early 2005. Was not a new line or imprint, but rather a collection of titles intended to spotlight younger characters. So, yeah, it was there to pretty much spotlight the younger characters, like the Young Avengers, the Runaways, Amazing Fantasy, whatever that is.
I don't know that one either.
Gravity, Livewires, Machine Teens, Spellbinders, and I don't even know what that is. Arana? It's got like an ulub over the end.
I be honest, I never even heard of any of them. They must not have been that successful, I guess.
Well, I know who the Young Avengers are.
Right, I know the Young Avengers, and
I know the
Runaways.
Yes, but I don't know the other ones. Well, that solves that question.
Yep.
Honestly, though, the cover's kind of bland.
The cover's very boring. It gives you a picture of her with her claws out. She's just dressed like a teenager. That's it. It's nothing.
So we open up with the Weapon X program. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast about comic books and you don't know what the Weapon X program is.
Yeah, everybody knows Weapon X. Wolverine was created from the Weapon X program. I mean, it's, I don't know how much we want to go into that. Everybody knows Weapon X if they're listening to this, I'm going to assume.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess there's bound to be a few different new listeners.
Yeah, possibly, especially because we do focus on DC. So, Weapon X was essentially, they were trying to make a super soldier similar to what the origins of Captain America, I guess.
Yeah, every scientist in the world's been obsessed with that freaking serum since World War II in Marvel Comics.
Exactly. And Weapon X actually tried to develop a metal skeleton that they would basically, your body would grow with. It's basically the only way I could really explain it, I guess.
And from the little bit of knowledge that I have from it is that there were no survivors until Logan Wolverine because of his healing factor.
Right, he was already a mutant who could heal rapidly, and that's why he was able to survive this surgery or the serums and this fusing of his body to the adamantium.
And it's just, I don't even know how many pages this is because I'm reading it on a digital, but it's a bunch of horizontal strips across.
So total pages for this comic is 24 pages.
I forgot to say that, but thank you, 24 pages. But what I mean is how long this Weapon X program, this opening is, because of all the horizontal strips.
It's like 15. It's 2 pages cut into strips.
Yeah. And it's just summarizing Wolverine escaping and killing one of the scientists. And then we get introduced... Who did this to him? Huh? Yeah, who did this?
Yeah.
Who did it to him? And we get introduced to, I guess, the head of the Weapon X program at the time?
I think that's who he killed?
No, the business guy ahead of him.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I actually thought so that's the businessman now, but I actually thought that the guy who died in the page before that businessman is actually the one whose father was killed.
Oh.
Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah, because the guy who, I guess, who funded the whole thing goes to the scientist's kid and tells him, hey, Wolverine killed your dad, but now you're my son.
Yes, there you go.
And then we cut to X years later, I guess, because that's what it says.
Yes, years later, but it has the X symbol before it, so.
It has the X-Men logo symbol, just because they wanted to be...
Let you know it was X-Men.
Right. Anyway, the kid grew up to be a douche scientist, and he's experimenting on something that...
I don't know what that is. It's kind of human.
Whatever it is, it's dead now because he couldn't get it to work. And then he goes in to see his boss/father figure, past his secretary/wife, main boss's secretary/wife, where there's a new scientist lady joining the fray. And she has a plan to clone Wolverine in order to pretty much to clone Wolverine, except they want to turn him into a clone they can control and keep him as a weapon, essentially.
Right. The whole purpose is Wolverine was not controllable. It was successful, but they were not able to keep him under their control. So their goal is to create another Wolverine, but make him so they can control it.
And the scientists, I really should know their names, but I don't know any of them.
And honestly, I don't even know if it really matters, but Rice...
His name is the scientist's son that grew up. His name's Xander. I'm going to try and remember the name just so I can keep everything in together, and what's the girl's name? Just so I have it. Dr. Kinney.
Yes, Dr. Kinney and Xander Rice.
Alright. So, Xander doesn't like Kinney right from the start, but his dad tells him that he's got to work with her, so he does, and so the dad shows her around, and then we get some of her backstory where I guess she was molested by her dad.
Yeah, I don't remember that part, but, it looks like that's what it says. There's a police report, and...
Well, and that's, why that's her excuse for being cold throughout this whole thing, essentially.
Yes.
And so, they start experimenting and trying to do this clone thing, and my phone's going off.
It's Uncle Chris. He just texted us both right while we were doing this.
Yep. He's still mad because he's fired.
Yes, he's fired.
Good.
Yeah, so basically, that's their backstory on her. Due to the things that happened to her as a child, it's made her cold-hearted, and she's able to help out in these kind of programs because she doesn't have much regard for human life, I guess.
I guess. And so she attempts to clone a human, but the Y chromosome keeps deteriorating, but they have an intact X chromosome. Meanwhile, Xander is having an affair with his dad's wife.
Yes.
So there's that whole storyline. And Xander's not a very nice guy in this thing. I couldn't wait to see him get killed, honestly.
Yes, agreed. Honestly, I don't even know why they even had to put that kind of story into it anyway, but...
No.
It's fine.
Whatever. It is what it is.
Right.
And so, if they can't get it to work, she says she can't get a male human clone because... and for another 10 years, but they could do a female clone right now. But I don't know why they're so against the female clone. But
I don't understand that. But I guess
they're sexist. But the dad and Xander are completely against it, and they say no.
Right, can't be female
for whatever reason. But Kenny ignores them and does it anyway, and creates a female clone. But they need a surrogate to do it, and so Xander says that Kinney has to do it because it was her idea. So, she gets impregnated with the clone, has the baby, and Weapon X-23 is born.
Yes.
That's issue 1. I skipped over a lot of stuff in there.
Well, and again, there was no reason for it all. To me, none of that other stuff that we skipped a couple pages, just so everybody knows, like maybe 2 or 3 pages. But they had nothing to do with the story. They didn't... What he said is exactly what happened. That's it.
By the way, that first story was called Innocence Lost. The second issue is called Innocence Lost Part 2. It is... everything else is the same. The creators, the artists, the cover artist, the editor-in-chief, so forth and so forth. Yeah, I think it's even 24 pages long.
It is.
So, the second cover is just X-23 in a padded... Well, I would say a padded room, but it's like tiled room.
Yeah, she almost looks like she's in a bathroom.
Yes, and she's in a hospital gown. Yes,
this cover is better than the first cover. It's still not really anything. It's just a girl in a nightgown with her claws out, and essentially in a bathroom with 2 bathroom walls around her, basically.
Yeah, and it still says Marvel Next, and yeah, pretty much. So this episode, or issue, or whatever you want to call it, opens up with X 7 years later, because even though they have a specific time, they still need to put the X in there for some reason.
Yeah, it's their symbol.
And Weapon X is being kept in a room, and she's being trained by a martial artist, old guy, who's being nice to her despite the programs telling them she's not a person, not to be nice.
Yeah, he's kind of her trainer, but says your training was designed to strip you of your humanity.
She's being trained, essentially, and it's just a few pages of her going through her daily routine. Kinney gets a call from her sister, who she's been estranged with, who has a daughter of her own, her showing that she has a niece. The niece wants to send her something, and she says that's fine, but not to ever call her here because, of things. Meanwhile, Xander is still pissy about Wolverine killing his dad all those years ago. And
yes, and he's still having an affair with his stepmom.
Yeah, I don't know if he was actually adopted, but...
Yeah, no, the guy just said, "You are my son now." And that is just what it is. Yeah. I don't know if there was any legal adoption at all, but this guy claims to be his new dad, and Xander is dating his fake dad's wife.
Yes. Meanwhile, Kinney is supposedly reading X-23, The Art of War, but she's really reading them Pinocchio.
Yes, Kinney is starting to get feelings.
Yep.
For essentially her daughter. I mean, she did give her birth. Not blood related, but she carried her.
Yep. The martial arts teacher's been talking to X-23 in Japanese, and he thought he was getting away with it, but the doctor apparently speaks Japanese, so he knew he was being nice to her the whole time.
Yes.
And so, I don't know what this experiment... I forget what this experiment's for. He's doing an experiment on X-23's Xander, the scientist douche. Puts her in like an MRI machine.
Yeah, I don't know. They're giving her doses of something. I think that has to do with the metal skeleton, like to increase it or something.
No. Because she's so young, her metagene isn't
active yet.
And they're dosing her with radiation so that it will trigger, so that I guess to save her life from it.
Right, to wake up her healing factor.
Yes, and it does, and she gets her bone claws, essentially.
Yes.
And then he's pretty much just tortures this poor little girl, and grafts adamantium onto some of her skeleton, but not all of her skeleton. Like, he removes her claws and kind of, like, reinserts them.
Yes. So at the beginning of this, she says, "I remember everything that you did to me." Like, basically foreshadowing what they were going to go into in this story.
Mm-hmm. And so, Xander also has this vial that says trigger on it. So, just for spoilers ahead for the future, it's kind of like a pheromone that triggers a feral response in the girl.
Yes.
And he pours it on the Master's sword, so when they have one final sparring match, X-23 goes nuts and murders the old guy. And the scientists are happy about that.
Yep.
And that's the end of issue number 2. Like we said, there's not a lot to this.
No, there's not. There's not. It's a pretty straightforward what's happening. So
third one is called Innocence Lost Part 3. Looks like it's still the same people who created everything.
Yes.
I apologize if I missed someone that's different, but...
I don't think anybody was switched out on these. It was a fairly short series. I think they wrote it fairly quickly and we got it out there.
This was released April 2005. I forgot to mention the last issue was released in March 2005. That's weird.
What?
The first issue was also released March 2005. They were released in the same month.
Oh, okay. They must have been released like back to back, kind of give you a little bit before they're going to release the third one.
Yeah. Because they were both released in the same month, and then this one's released in April 2005. Because this is a professional podcast, and we do all our work beforehand.
Right, we do all our research while we're talking to you. So, this is what we do.
Uh-huh.
Again, this is kind of an off-the-cuff episode thing. It's not our normal. You guys are aware of that, so...
Yeah, it's because...
You're learning as we're learning.
We had to fire a person with bad jokes.
Yes.
The third issue has X-23 posing in front of TV screens that has a bunch of villains on it. I see Magneto, I see Dr. Doom, Kingpin.
I say Kingpin, I see... There's somebody behind her. I see Red Skull.
Yeah, the guy behind her, he's an X-Men villain. The white guy, Dr. Sinister? Mr.
Yes,
Sinister?
It is Mr. Sinister.
One of them. But yeah, there's just a bunch of villains.
Yeah, and she's in somewhat of a uniform now. She's all in black, like almost a leather black suit.
Yeah, it looks like a more modern version of the X-Men suit.
Yes, except it's not X-Men yet. It's just she's still working for these people, so she's more of like a assassin for them now, I guess.
Yeah.
She has like cufflinks on, and
we open up with her getting her first mission 3 years later. 3 years later, I'm sorry, because we need to have that X there every time. And apparently they just randomly chose a guy to test her, and she's gonna kill Greg Johnson, a presidential candidate.
Yep.
And she poses as a crippled girl with crutches and stuff like
leg
that.
braces. She has Forrest Gump leg braces on.
Yep. And she pretty much comes in and she asks if she can see the president, and they're like, no, and then she starts crying, and the people think, oh, this is going to be a great photo shoot. Let's get him in there with all the family. And so she's in there with all the family, and then she kicks the president in the throat and kills him and his entire family.
Yes, because something we didn't cover. So X-23, unlike Wolverine, actually has claws in her feet as well. I don't know if they remove them or not, but she has bone claws that come out of her feet. I don't know if they ever replace those or not.
I don't know, but I didn't even notice that was claws. She had claws in her feet, because that's the only time it comes up. And I just thought it was like a blade or something.
No, she has claws that come out of her feet. Actually, in the other comic before this, they show it. She has a bone claw that comes out of her foot. It's like a single claw.
Huh.
And on her hands, she actually only has 2 claws instead of 3.
Huh. That's weird.
Yes.
Anyway, that was very public, and so the scientists and his dad, Xander and his dad, are like, alright, you saw what she can do, now I'm selling her to the highest bidder. She can kill anybody.
Look, she kills everybody.
What?
She kills him, and then all the Secret Service people rush in.
Yeah, but I skipped past that.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a page where she has killed everybody in the place. There's like 30 people dead on the floor.
Yeah, well, now they're having a bidding war, pretty much, so she can kill anybody that these bad guys want.
Yes, so now they have all these supervillains on the screen, Red Skull, and they're all going to go and bid on buying her.
There's a Dick Tracy villain up in this one panel.
Yeah, see that one in the middle? I don't know who... I recognize Red Skull. I don't know who the guy up in the right-hand corner is. I'm not sure of that guy.
I think that's Bullseye.
Maybe. Yeah, it's a weird photo of him.
No, I don't know, but the guy underneath him looks like the ventriloquist from Batman.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with all the villains on there. I do see Sinister at the bottom right.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it. Dr. Doom's in there, I see.
Oh, I do see him now, okay.
That's weird.
Anyway,
yeah. Meanwhile, Kenny's having a conversation with the adulterous wife, and I don't know what they're talking about. Just so people know, I read this last week, so I'm a little iffy on the story a bit.
So she asks how old Henry is now, because I guess the two of them had a baby.
Oh, right, okay. And it looks like the other guy that she's having the affair with.
Yes, not her husband, it looks like.
The other guy, yeah, okay, because that's not suspicious at all. Anyway, the other guy comes in, Xander, and he's bragging about the success, and Kenny goes and sees X-23 and makes sure she's okay. But she's got another target in Saudi Arabia, where she killed some guy, and then there's another one in Las Vegas where she killed godfathers, I guess. She kills royalty, drug lords, dictators. It's just a montage of her killing assassins and pretty much anyone for a price. Meanwhile, Xander's I don't have a name for her.
Yeah, it's just his wife.
It's not his wife though. It's
right.
The boss's
it's his girlfriend, the boss's wife, but I don't know her name.
Well, she wants to tell about their affair, and so Xander gets really violent and says, "You're not saying nothing."
He basically beats her up, tells her she's not allowed to say nothing. It looks like a picture of her niece.
Yeah, that's why I was confused. I thought we were going to a different scene that doesn't come up till later, but we're not. She just got the drone from her niece that her niece wanted to send her.
Exactly.
But Xander is taking X-23 on a mission and which is odd because he never goes on missions. And so they go on this mission, and she looks like she's doing fine, but then Xander kills all the people he's with and forces the helicopter pilot to drive, says she fails, and then flies away. Xander's a freaking idiot.
He's a moron.
But anyway, so X-23 is left there, and then there's a bunch of soldiers, finds X-23, and they all fire on her, supposedly killing her, and in issue 3. But yeah, he's a freaking idiot. That wasn't the whole point so that they can, make money off this girl, and he just leaves her to die?
And it makes no sense. She has the healing factor of Wolverine. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, they can shoot her all they want. I don't think it matters, if I remember correctly, for Wolverine.
Not really. And so not only is he a douche, but he's a stupid douche.
Yes. He is definitely an idiot. And they convey that very well, that he's a moron.
Yep. And yeah, that's it. That's those 3 issues.
Yes.
So, I mean, we're just really getting into that was all set up, essentially.
Right. The next 3 are go a little bit more forward in her story.
Exactly.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it's decent for what it is.
So, I had a question for you. What did you think about the artwork?
The artwork?
Yeah, like, how did you feel about the drawings and stuff?
It's decent from what I can see.
Yeah, I think I really like the artwork, and I'm actually kind of excited as we go forward in Batman, because I know the artwork. Not that I think the artwork's bad at all, but 40s to New Age, there's definitely some pretty big jumps in artwork.
And technology. And
technology, so.
I'll be honest with you, I'm a fan of the cleaner, newer style of stuff.
Same, so am I.
Whereas I know a lot of purists and stuff like that like the old kind of scratchy handmade drawing, but I don't know. I was never fond of it, and like plus a lot of the old stuff don't have like details to them and stuff like that.
And I think that's what I like about the cleaner work is that they can do more detail. Where in a comic like this, you don't get those like blank backgrounds so much.
I mean, granted, it does feel like it was, like, printed from a computer sometimes.
Yes, I agree. That's my only downfall in some of it is where it's almost a little too clean, where it's clearly been touched up,
Exactly. But, I don't know. I've always been more of a fan of newer things than the old purist kind of thinking style of things.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot to say, especially on those first 3. We covered exactly what it was. I like this story, but those first 3 are basically nothing. They're just her being born, and she becomes an assassin, and then he tries to get her killed. And she's dead right now, as of the end of that episode.
So it's not much of an exciting podcast.
No.
I mean, but, this is what you get for a in-between episode.
Yes.
I'm not gonna do who was in these issues like Uncle Chris used to do, because there's a lot, but I will mention in this issue that it says God is a character.
Okay.
It says God, Yahweh, invoked. I guess that means they just said it. And I have the people who are on the screen.
Oh, that's good. I'd like to know that. So
there was Kingpin, Scarecrow, Ebenezer Lawton. I don't know who that is.
Well, I know who Scarecrow is. If it's the picture at the bottom. I don't know what he's in, but I've seen him in some of the comics I've read. So I don't know enough about him. Can't tell you. I'll have to look at some more, because it's not the Scarecrow that we know from Batman.
Yeah, no.
It's a different Scarecrow.
Like, I'm just looking at his bio by clicking on his names. Apparently, he was in Tales of Suspense number 51.
Okay, yeah. So I read a bunch of those. They're older, too.
Yeah, but I'm not sure whose villain he is or what villain he's from.
Well, if he was in Tales of Suspense, he's nobody's, because those are they're basically origin stories. Like, that's where Iron Man came from.
It does look like he crossed Iron Man.
Okay.
He's also been defeated by Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, that's one of the things about Marvel is a lot of times, especially from Tales of Suspense, they're basically characters on their own, so you can pull them into whatever you want. Because they're just part of the universe.
Yeah, it looks that way, because it looks like he's been beaten by a lot of people.
Yes.
Alright, back to the other ones. Hammerhead? That name sounds familiar.
Don't know that one.
I think that was the Dick Tracy-looking villain.
Okay.
He is a Spider-Man villain, what it looks like. Amazing Spider-Man's where he debuted. So, obviously Red Skull, Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
It just says Hydra. I don't know if it's the whole organization.
Okay, so, and that's kind of weird because Red Skull's there. So, like, saying Hydra, maybe there were just some other people on the screen that were Hydra. But they're essentially the same.
And the only other person they list is Mr. Sinister.
Okay, which is the one we knew, too.
Yeah. So, I guess all the rest of them were just bad guy, no names.
Right.
Alright. Yep, that's that.
That's basically it. I don't have anything else, like, even... And I don't want to spoil anything going forward, so that's kind of what it is for now.
Alright. You got a joke for us, Lump?
What happens when you tell really bad jokes all the time?
You get fired.
Yes. Yes. That's my joke, guys. That's my joke. That's it.
Bye.
Bye.
TJ here from Comics and Us, just here to plug the social media. Check us out on Twitter. Our handle is @EveryTNUs because someone took everything and us, but the name of the Twitter page is Everything and Us Podcast, and then the handle is @EveryTNUs. You can also check us out on Instagram, which is also Everything and Us. These all encapsulate all the podcasts that I do, but you're going to find all your updates for Comics and Us, Anime and Us, so forth and so forth. You can also contact us right now at everythinganduspodcasts@gmail.com. Still working on the website. And until then, that's where you can get a hold of us. That's all. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later. Bye.